A very good morning, afternoon, or evening. My name is Marco Tiemann, the CEO of HSC Alliance. Welcome to the HSC Alliance MasterClass series. Today, we will take you into the heart of ESG as a currency that now decides access to markets, capital, and legitimacy. Under the banner Profit, Policy, Politics, Building the Halal Future with ESG as Currency, this session unpacks how ESG determines who receives funding and who is pushed aside, and why these pressures are spreading fast into the Muslim economies. To lead us through this topic, we are honored to have Dr. Firdaus Fanny Putera Perdana with us. He is known as the Halal gentleman in modern culture and an international expert on halal industry, halal ESG, and currently a senior research associate with IPMI International Business School in Indonesia and a consulting partner with Real Consulting in Malaysia. Dr. Firdaus, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing really well. How are you, Marco? How are you doing?
Very well. It's good to see you. It has been a privilege also working with you in several consultancy projects.
Absolutely. The pleasure is mine.
Yeah, so I look forward for your talk. So the time is yours. Thank you.
All right, let me share. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Today we will talk about something that really matters, and it is really deep that I love it. It's gonna be about profit, policy, and politics, and how they shape the halal future. The title says it all. And by the way, we want to build a halal future, but at the same time, we need to understand the game. And the game today uses a new currency called ESG. Now, before we start, I was introduced already by Prof. Marco, but then maybe I'm just gonna do like a quick introduction about myself. So my name is Firdaus Fanny Putera Perdana, and then I teach at IPMI Institute and also work at the K Center at the same time. My background is a little bit mixed. I started with chemical engineering, and then I took industrial engineering for my master, and after that, an MBA in industrial management. And finally, my PhD is in the halal industry. So yes, I have been in science, systems, and now halal. Anyway, I care a lot about sustainability. I always have. But I also see something strange. Some sustainability agendas are way too political. Some are full of hidden goals, and that is where the problem starts. Because we in the halal industry cannot ignore ESG. We're going to talk about what ESG is later. But then we cannot run away from it. At the same time, we cannot lose who we are. So the question is simple. How do we play this game without losing our faith? How do we stay true and still stay in business? Well, that is why I'm here. And this presentation is my attempt to answer those questions, to show that we can engage with ESG and still stay halal, honest, and strong. So stay with me. Let me peel this subject layer by layer. All right. What is ESG? Let us start with the basic. ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. It is a system used to judge how a company behaves, not only how much money it makes, but how it treats people, the planet, and its own workers. You see, investors today ask new questions. They do not just ask how much profit. They also ask, does this company harm the environment? Does it treat workers fairly? Is the boss honest? That is what ESG tries to answer. It looks at three main things. First, the E, environmental. This talks about how the company affects nature, like how it uses energy, water, or land. Does it reduce pollution? Does it manage waste properly? So those are the questions for the E. And then the second one, that would be the S, social. This is about people, how the company treats employees, customers, and the community. Are the workers safe? Are the products safe? Does the company give back to the society? Some of those are the questions that we're going to find when it comes to the S or social. And the last one is the G or governance. This is about leadership and honesty. Basically, questions like, does the company follow the law? Does it avoid corruption? Are the bosses accountable? So those are like the crash course of the ESG. In a simple word, ESG is about doing good business, making profit, hell yes, but also protecting people and the planet. The intention behind ESG is good, very, very good. It started because many investors got tired of scandals, pollution, worker abuse, fraud, you name it. They wanted a better system, a system that reward companies that do the right thing. So at its core, ESG is meant to build trust, to make companies cleaner, fairer, and more transparent. That was the original dream. Now, the question is, has the dream stayed pure or has it become something else? Has something tainted that dream? We're gonna have to figure out, and we will talk about that next. All right, the reason why halal industry players must care. Let us be honest, many people in the halal industry, when they hear the word ESG, they would think, that's for Western companies. But that thinking is rather dangerous because ESG now decides who gets access to global markets. Let's make it simple. When it comes to top-tier buyers, I'm going to give you an example. If you supply to Nestle, Unilever, or even big hotel chains, they already ask about your ESG score. They check if your workers are treated fairly. They check if your raw materials come from legal and ethical sources. If your record is clean, you move up to the supplier list. If not, you lose the deal. I mean, even if they're looking for halal products, but then if your ESG score is low, then probably you're not going to get the deal. So that is the issue. That's the first one. You're going to lose top tier buyers if you don't play this game. And the second one, capital access. Bank and investors now link loan rates to ESG. If your company shows low risk, for instance, you have clean audit, you have fair labor, and then you have no pollution at all, you can get cheaper loans and easier credit. Without ESG, basically your business is gonna be deemed risky to foreign investors. All right, the third one is trade compliance. If you look at the Europe, Germany now has a supply chain act. If your product touches any ESG violation, it can be rejected before it enters their port. For halal exporters, for instance, this means ESG is a visa. No ESG, no entry. All right, the next one, it is consumer trust. Younger consumers, whether they are in Malaysia, in Indonesia, or in the Gulf, or wherever they are, especially the Gen Z, they care about ethics, not just halal labels, even though they're Muslims. So they want brands that care about people and the planet as well. That's typical Gen Z, right? And then if your halal brand also shows good ESG, of course, it's gonna become their first choice. And last one, but not least, the internal risk control. This one is often ignored. Strong ESG helps your business avoid shutdowns or scandals. Better waste handling, better worker safety, better management control. You sleep better at night knowing your system is clean. So here's the thing. This is not a Western idea anymore. ESG is becoming part of trade law, banking, and even halal certification checks. If we want the halal industry to grow globally, we cannot stay outside the ESG conversation. We need to sit at the table and play smart. All right, first thing first, Let's pause for a second, right? We always hear that ESG is about saving the planet, about protecting people, about good governance. And yes, that is the idea. But in reality, ESG has also become a business, a very big one indeed. There are companies that make money from the ESG system itself. Let's look at the first group. They would be ESG ratings. These are firms like MSCI, Sustainalytics, ISS, or Refinitiv. They sell ESG scores. If you want to be rated or listed in their database, you pay. It can cost tens or even hundreds of $1,000s a year. The next one, when you have to do your ESG reporting, usually you cannot just do it yourself because it's more complicated. You need to understand like their language. You're gonna have to hire big consulting firms. The ones we all know, like BCG, McKinsey, ERM, South Pole. They help companies prepare ESG disclosures and climate reports. Good work, absolutely. But then again, it costs more money. Sometimes as much as a small company's annual profit. Next up, we have certifications and labels. You know, names like Fair Trade, B Corp, RSPO, or ISO. Each one comes with fees, audit fees, renewal fees, label fees. It builds credibility indeed, but it also builds cost at the same time. All right, and the last one is ESG software systems. These platforms track your data, whether they are about waste, labor, emissions, everything. Useful? Absolutely. But then again, not so cheap. So what does this tell us? It tells us what ESG is. It tells us that ESG is not only a moral idea, it is also an economy. It creates new industries, new revenue streams, new players. For the halal industry, that means we must be careful. We support sustainability, we believe in fairness, but we must enter this ESG space with open eyes. Because if we are not careful, we may end up paying more to prove we are ethical than actually doing what is ethical. Anyway, there is one more about ESG, but you gotta have to Google it yourself. I mean, go deeper about BlackRock, and that's where the ESG money is. But I don't think we have like much time today. But like if we have like another session of masterclass, I think we can talk about that as well. All right. Let's talk about the real business here. So first one, we're gonna talk about the environmental part, the E in the ESG. It starts with good intention. Protect the planet, reduce waste, cut pollution, but in practice, it asks for more, sometimes too much. Some rules sound fair, but they treat every country the same. They forget that not all industries or economies are equal. Let's start with this one, uniform carbon metrics. In theory, this system is meant to make companies responsible. It tracks how much carbon each company produces. Sound fair, right? But here's the problem. ESG scoring often treats all industries the same. A livestock company, a steel factory, and a tech company. All of them are judged under one formula. Same standards, same pressure, even though their nature of work is completely different. So if you are in oil and gas or manufacturing, you automatically look bad in the scorecard, right? And even if you operate responsibly, even if your products are essential to daily life, when it comes to the carbon counting, it's gonna be a different story. So I'm gonna show you this, like the scope 1, 2, and 3. Scope 1 is what you produce directly, like fuel use or factory emissions. And then scope 2 is the energy you buy, like electricity, heating, and cooling. Scope 3 is everything else in the supply chain, transport, packaging, and suppliers as well. Well, here's where it gets tricky. Scope 3 can make one company look much dirtier than another, even if both produce similar products. Let's talk about Walmart and Amazon. Walmart owns its trucks and warehouses, right? So their fuel use and logistics fall under direct emissions. They look bigger on paper. Amazon, on the other hand, outsources much of its logistics. Those emissions are counted under Scope 3. So they appear cleaner, right? But in reality, both move millions of packages every day. The emissions exist. They are just counted differently. That is the flaw of uniform carbon metrics. It looks objective, but in practice, it rewards structure. And that can be quite unfair, especially to industries like palm oil, livestock, or aquaculture, where the carbon is part of the natural production, not pollution. So the message here is simple. We all support clearer, cleaner business, right? But the playing field must stay fair. The next one, let's talk about alternative protein agenda. It started from a good place. People wanted food that uses fewer resources, less land, less water, less carbon. So they began promoting new protein sources like insects or lab-grown meat. So in vitro meat or lab-grown meat, for example, is made in labs from animal cells. It looks like real meat, but it is created artificially. Insects are also being pushed as a future protein. Some supermarkets in Europe already sell insect burgers. The problem is this: instead of giving consumer choice, some activists go one step further. They demonize us. They start to shame people who eat real meat. They say things like fight climate change with diet change. Some even call traditional farming or livestock immoral. That is where this becomes sensitive for us. We can support sustainability. Absolutely, we're supposed to. But the issue is not the idea of alternative protein. If they want to do it, just do it. But then it is when the narrative turns moral, when eating meat becomes wrong and lab-grown food becomes good. And that is something that we need to understand carefully because it could shape global food policy and trade. And we don't want those to dictate halal future. Anyway, like those elite people, they tell us to eat insects, they tell us to eat They tell us to eat insects, they tell us to eat the animal cells in the in vitro meat, but then at the same time, they eat Wagyu beef. They eat like all the best food, all the natural food. So how can that be fair? We need to start questioning like that. The next one, when it comes to forced renewable energy transition, clean, green, and safe. Who wouldn't agree with that, right? But then here's the problem. Global policies often forget that not every country starts at the same point. Some nations still depend on coal or gas, not because they want to, because they have to. Otherwise, they're gonna be like having a lot of issues with everything. When you force a fast energy transition, you push developing countries into unstable cost. Electricity becomes expensive, factories slow down, jobs disappear. So yes, renewables are good, but timing matters. Transition must be fair. Otherwise, it becomes punishment. So I'm going to give you an example here. This is the story of Germany. Germany is a country known for strong planning, technology, and discipline, right? You know Germany is super strong. But in 2022, Germany faced an energy crisis. They wanted to go cleaner in the fastest way. They pushed hard to replace coal and nuclear with renewables. It sounded super noble, but it was done too soon without stable alternatives. ESG scoring apparently encouraged this kind of shift, right? This kind of change. Companies that used fossil energy were seen as bad. Investors pulled out from coal and gas projects. But wind and solar were not ready to carry the full load of everything. So what happened next? When Russia cut gas supply, Germany had no backup. They had to reopen coal plants. They even burned more fuel just to keep the lights on. The goal was clean energy, but it ended up costing more and eventually producing more emissions. Now imagine the situation for smaller OIC countries. If a country as advanced as Germany can struggle, how about nations with weaker infrastructure? How about nations with limited fundings? How about nations with unstable grids? We cannot afford, right, to copy this kind of thing blindly. We have to go green, but at our pace, at our own pace, step by step, based on local strength, not the global pressure. Sustainability should mean like a good thing. It's not supposed to turn us into vulnerability. Next up, we have like a Western green label control. So you see, most sustainability labels, they come from Western organizations. They decide what is sustainable, what is ethical, and what can enter their markets. At first, this sounds brilliant. It sounds fine. Certifications like RSPO, Fair Trade, Rainforest Alliance promise cleaner production and fairer trade. Good goals, indeed. Again, no one disagrees with that. But here's the issue. These labels also come with conditions. Extra audits, extra paperwork, and of course, extra cost. Small producers in Indonesia, Malaysia, or Africa, they would end up paying more just to prove they're sustainable, right? If they cannot afford the label, their products get blocked or ignored at least. So the label becomes a gatekeeper here. Not everyone can pass, and it quietly decides who gets access to Western markets. All right, enough about the label. And then we're gonna go with the solution. So we have seen how the global ESG system works, right? The good ideas, absolutely, nobody disagrees with that. But many rules were written without us in the room. They often ignore our food systems, they often ignore our energy realities, and of course, our values. Now the question is, what can we do about it? We cannot reject ESG, but we can build our own version. That's what we can call Halal ESG. So it gives the same spirit of care for people and the planet, but it does so through balance, not political pressure. So let's start with the first one that we created for the E part, or environmental part. So when it comes to us, we have to have like this kind of attitude. Resource balance first. Use what is needed, not more. When it comes to water, soil, and energy, they must stay in balance. We do not follow carbon targets blindly. Feeding people comes first. Some countries can talk about emissions all day. That's fine. I mean, like, they can do that in Europe, they can do that in the US. But then in our countries in Asia, or maybe in OIC countries, food security is still a real problem. We have to fix that first. And then number two, ethical food system. This one is also close to our heart. We protect our halal meat and fish industries as well. They feed families, they give jobs, but some global campaigns would say that eating meat is bad. And that is not fair. For us, it is not about removing meat, but it is about producing it responsibly, right? And then when it comes to waste control, some companies only buy carbon credits to look clean. That is just the numbers on paper. But Halal ESG would say that fix your waste for real. We need to clean our water. We need to treat our leftovers. And we need to handle our rubbish properly. We need to make sure that what we do have real impact. And then the next one, when it comes to energy transition, it has to be visible. We want renewable energy. Yes, that's brilliant, but we must move at a speed that we can afford. No blackout, no sudden jump in prices. We build solar or wind step by step, based on what the country can handle. And then number 5, when it comes to measurable, lawful stewardship. So this means show your care through actions. Do proper audits, keep records, be honest in reporting. We do all of those. That is how we prove we care for the environment, the halal way. So that's the halal version of the E. They're supposed to be clean, they're supposed to be realistic, and they're supposed to be faith-friendly. We protect the nature, but we also protect the people. All right, next up, let's talk about S, the social part. This is where everything gets even trickier because social goals sound noble. It's all about fairness, equality, inclusion, all good things. But sometimes the way it is done creates new problems. And that's why we call it social pressure here. So, for instance, the education and recruitment. Many schools and companies now want to look balanced. They want to show diversity in their numbers. That sounds fair, right? But here's the catch. In some places, who you are matter more than what you can do. Admissions start to focus on background instead of ability. Recruitment starts to tick boxes instead of finding the best person. The goal was to open doors for some people, but sometimes it quietly closes the doors for others. The people who actually matter, the people who actually are good, people who work hard to get past, people who work hard, they get passed over, and then competence loses value. This is why we must be careful. We support fairness, yes, absolutely, but fairness must come with capability, not just demographic balance. So, this is a real case here. Let me give you a real example of how education can get hijacked. So basically, like in 2013, Harvard's new students, the intake, they look like this. Around 43% white, 19% Asian, 10% black, and 9% Hispanic. But this is where it gets interesting. If Harvard had chosen students only based on grade and test scores, the number of Asian students would not have been 19% or 18.7. So it would have been like a lot more, around 43%. Imagine, it is like more than the double. So almost half the class would have been Asian. So what happened with that? Harvard used something called personal ratings. So they judge applicants not just by academic ability, but also by how likable, positive, and outgoing they seemed. That's not fair, right? And guess what? Their own internal research also showed that Asian applicants were given lower personal ratings, even compared to the white students with the same academic results. So even though many Asians scored higher, they were rated lower, and many were rejected. That is what we mean by social pressure in education. It starts with good idea, diversity, and inclusion, but when it becomes a target or quota, it stops rewarding merit and starts rewarding labels. That is how a good system slowly turns political. And that is the danger that we must recognize as soon as possible. All right, next up, let's talk about safety and the operational sectors. We talk about something more sensitive here, safety and operational jobs. Jobs like police and then firefighters, aviation crew, pilots. These are not ordinary jobs because lives depend on them. Training is tough, the work is serious, but in some countries, new ESG style quotas started entering these jobs too. The goal was to make teams look more diverse, more balanced between genders, races, and backgrounds. Yeah, it sounded brilliant, right? But then in reality, it gets more complicated. For example, in firefighting, the physical standards were lowered in some places so that more people could pass. In aviation, some airlines proudly promote gender balance in the cockpit. That's fine, that's brilliant, but not if it means lowering entry standards. Because one small mistake up there can cost hundreds of lives. It's the same in policing. Some forces now choose recruits to meet diversity targets, not always based on who performs best. And when people in the team start thinking that promotions are based on quota instead of merit, the moral drops, the respect drops, and eventually the performance would also drop. This is what happens when representation replaces readiness, right? And we forget that these jobs exist to protect people. They need skill, they need discipline, and also they need teamwork. This is not about rejecting diversity. It's all about keeping standards, because when you're running into fire, you don't care who's holding the hose. You just want to be the best person for the job. All right, I'm gonna give you like a quick video here.
Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire. Which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
So that is a victim blaming. So it happened at the Los Angeles Fire Department. They hired a diversity chief, that lady. She was paid like around $300,000 a year. Her job was to promote inclusion, more women, more representation. I mean, it sounds good, right? But then when someone asked her a simple, honest question, is she strong enough to do this? Could she carry my husband out of a burning house? And her response, she said like, well, he got himself in the wrong place if I had to carry him out of a fire. Think about that for a second. That's not inclusion, right? That's arrogance. And it sparked public anger because people don't want politics in rescue work. They want competence. They don't care if it is a woman, if it is a gay person, or whatever it is. As long as you know what to do, you have what it takes to do it. We have no problem with them joining fire service, police, or military. In fact, we support it, but then like the standard must stay the same. We can train, we can mentor, we can prepare, but we can lower the bar. So let's say if a man is supposed to be able to carry 100-kilogram person, a woman should too. Otherwise, it's gonna be a disaster. All right, next up, let's talk about corporate management and policy. This is another issue. This is about how companies are managed. Today, in many large companies, executives are paid not just for performance, but it is about diversity targets as well. Like, did we hire the right person? Did we hire enough of the right group? And when leadership becomes about metrics, not merit, you lose the real meaning of management. Diversity should be a result of good leadership. So, I'm going to give you an example here. Let's talk about Disney, right? Almost everyone here grew up with Disney, I suppose. We have Mickey Mouse, Lion King, Snow White, not Snow White 2025, of course. Snow White 1937. It used to be about family. It used to be about imagination. Parents could sit with their kids, watch a movie, and not worry about the message. It was simple, it was fun, it was innocent, it was just warm. But today, things feel a little bit different. Disney is changing way too fast. They're adding things that many parents are not comfortable with. More gender themes, more LGBT scenes, more political messages inside what used to be just stories for children. Look, I mean, like, I'm not here to attack anyone. That is not about hate. It is about the purpose. Disney is supposed to be a family-friendly company, but then now, look at it. We barely recognize it. Disney's main audience is still families, right? They are mothers, fathers, and children. That should be the focus. When you start pushing agendas that confuse kids, parents begin to lose trust. They stop watching, they stop buying. I mean, if you want to talk about the data about the Disney merchandise and everything, I mean, we are aware that the sales are dropping because what they wanted was safe entertainment. They don't want any activism. Even like small things like changing old characters, adding warnings, or removing words like boys and girls. They are even afraid of boys and girls because they don't wanna offend people who are not boys and girls, in a sense that they don't want to be called either boys or girls. So it all adds up, right? And people feel like the company forgot what made it so special to begin with. So this is not just about Disney. I mean, we have Netflix, we have everything, but I don't think we have time to talk about that here. I mean, hopefully we have another masterclass for this, then we can talk about those. But then at the end of the day, anyway, I'm a little bit off track, but then the lesson here is when the brands forget who they serve, they lose their direction. Anyway, Disney used to bring families together, but look at them now. I mean, they're just dividing opinions. And then the next one, I have another example. This one is from Hollywood. This is the Oscars, the biggest movie award in the world. Starting recently, movies that want to qualify for Best Picture must meet something called representation standards. Sounds good. Okay, more inclusion, more diversity. But look closer. It's now about numbers. At least one lead actor or many supporting actors must come from certain listed groups. They even include specific race, gender, and orientation. If not, the movie might not qualify, no matter how good the story is. Now think about it. Movies are supposed to be about creativity. Movies are supposed to be about storytelling. They're supposed to be about emotion. They're supposed to be about imagination. But when rules like this appear, directors start writing to please quotas, not the audiences. Instead of asking what makes the best story, they ask, did we meet the checklist? And that's where creativity dies a little because art cannot grow under forced rule. Even the comedians now, they cannot say a lot of things because they're not supposed to offend people. Well, when it comes to art, it needs freedom. This is not about rejecting diversity. Again, diversity happens naturally when you allow real talent to shine. When you make it a quota, unfortunately, you're gonna risk turning art into politics. I mean, it happens already. And what you see right now, you don't get better movies. You just get something empty. All right, the last one for the social pressure, that will be about consumer and brand marketing. So this is where the things get really visible. We all see it in ads, in social media, in campaigns. Big companies today want to look socially responsible. They want to show that they care. That's fine. But some go too far. They mix activism with marketing. They forget who their real customers are. When that happens, people push back. That's what happened with Bud Light and Gillette. So look at this. This is Jaguar's new ad. This is a brand that was once known for power, class, and elegance. It's a men's car. It is supposed to be bold. It is supposed to be confident. It is supposed to be timeless. But now, look at the message. It is full of woke symbols, gender fluidity, and identity politics. Nothing wrong with diversity, again, but ask yourself, who is Jaguar's real audience? Most of their buyers are men, and they're most likely aged 40 to 60, even 70 now, maybe. Men who grew up seeing Jaguar as strong, masculine, and stylish. Do you think this connects with them? Do you think they feel seen in this ad? Probably not. Because this is not about the car anymore. It is about showing an agenda. And when brands forget whom they sell to, they start losing the people who built them. And then the next one, we have another case, and this is Bud Light. It is quite recent as well, 2023. So one of the most famous beer brands in America. Its image has always been simple. It's about being friendly, it's about being fun, it is about working class. People who drink Bud Light are mostly older people. They seem to be loyal and politically conservative. But then company wanted to chase a younger crowd. They want the Gen Z, the progressive one, social media generation. So they partnered with a transgender influencer. Her name or his name, whatever it is like a Dylan Mulvaney. So they thought it would make the brand look modern and inclusive. But what happened next? It absolutely backfired, big time. Their main customers felt alienated, and then they can say like, this is not our brand anymore. Of course, sales dropped. Distributors were angry, and Bud Light lost its position as America stopped selling beer. The company tried to please a new group, but forgot the group that built them. So the same lesson about before. And then when a brand forgets its core audience, it also loses its identity. Nobody wants to be associated with Bud Light anymore. We're supposed to be inclusive, but then now we're not supposed to forget who we are and who we serve here. All right, let's talk about the solution for the S1. So we have seen how ESG can go too far, right, when it comes to S. We don't reject ESG. Again, we have just to do it our way, with balance and then with sense, with our values intact. That is what is supposed to be, that is what Halal ESG is supposed to be about, right? And it's not supposed to be against progress. It is just about direction. We just want fairness that build people. We don't want anything that will provoke them. All right, the first one, capability before representation. So we don't just hire people to fill quotas. For instance, if we want more women or more people in certain race, we don't just hire them right away. We provide them with training, we provide them with something, but we probably do not have to put them in our work system. Because if we put some people who are less capable than the people that are supposed to be there, then it's gonna be a different story. It's gonna be really bad for the company. So if we want more women in certain sectors, we have to start from skills. We prepare them from jobs. So when they join, the team stays balanced and the respect stays equal. For instance, like I have a friend, she's a woman, she's my age, but I mean, like she could really lift like a 100 kilogram of thing. So she's now at Total, being a major superintendent over there. The woman like that, that's what we want in the system. We don't want the women who can only lift like 5 kilograms, right? Because it's gonna be a disaster. It's gonna be like a resentment from the men over there who have to carry more work to help people, because it happened to me when I worked at oil and gas back then. All right, the next one, when it comes to cultural integrity, we don't fight social injustice with imported ideologies. We have to fix it through our own values. So in Islam, we help poor people with zakat. And we build fairness through lawful work. And then, yes, we care about equality, but we're not supposed to copy movement that rejects religion or culture. Our justice is grounded, right? And so that's what it is about. And then family as foundation. As you see, like a family has been demonized like these past few years. This one is quite personal to me, because when the family is strong, the community stays strong. But what we see today, campaigns that make parents look outdated, messages that make kids confused about who they are. We cannot let that take root. Our social strength starts at home, with stable parents, respectful children, and lawful livelihood. That's the real social capital that no ESG report can measure. And then standards without exception. I think we covered that already. We respect men, we respect women, we respect both, we respect everyone. But the rule is simple: same standards for everyone. If a woman wants to join the police or the army, train her right. Do not lower the bar. If a man wants to work in healthcare or teaching, train him too. Make him more nurturing. We don't change the standard to please activists. We keep standards so the system stays strong. And then number 5, values-based social care. So this one is quite beautiful, I suppose. ESG talks about mental health and well-being. In Islam, we already have them, like through our faith, prayer time, halal food, zakat, kindness at work. All of these are already part of employee welfare. We just need to formalize it. We just need to change it into ESG language, put it in the ESG report, and show what being halal also means, being humane. And then next up, we're talking about the governance pressure, or the G, right? And this is supposed to be about honesty, fair rules, good management. That's the theory, that's the book. But in practice, it's becoming, again, political. Too much control, too much checklist, and apparently not enough conscience. Let's go through it one by one, guess. So the secular oversight bias. This is a bit of problem for us because many ESG systems see religion as non-neutral, right? So they think faith-based oversight is an objective. So if a company includes a Sharia or halal board, some rating agencies will treat it as biased. Some rating agencies, not all of them, but then that could happen. So I guess that's wrong because faith doesn't make us biased. Faith is supposed to keep us honest. It gives us moral boundaries. We need governance that welcomes faith, not treats it like a problem. And then the next one, again, we're talking about quota-based board diversity. So we're not talking about what we had in social, but then we're talking about board right here. Like when it comes to family business, it's gonna hit them like very, very hard. Because let's say ESG demands certain board compositions, gender balance, demographic mix, sometimes even racial representation. But for small family businesses, it becomes a headache for them, right? Like they have to add people who may not know the business just to meet the quota. That is not diversity. That's what we call tokenism, right? And we should open opportunities, but then when it comes to forced representation, it's gonna weaken the trust inside the boardroom. So this is what we're talking about. We need to be careful with this. And then legalism without ethics. Governance today is drowning in paperwork, a lot of audits, a lot of everything. And then you can follow every rule, you can submit every report, and eventually you can still make bad decisions. Because rules do not always build ethics, right? Only values do. There is the missing part when it comes to ESG models, I guess. Good governance would need both technical compliance, yes, but also conscience. Otherwise, you get perfect reports, but maybe your behavior is super poor. And when it comes to political transparency pressure, be open about donations, for instance. But somehow it can backfire. In the West, separating business from government is quite normal, right? But in Muslim countries, it's probably a little bit different. Social programs, zakat, wakaf, public charities, they often connect with the state or local leaders. When ESG demands full transparency, when it comes to politics, it may cause misunderstanding. It can make normal cooperation look suspicious. So we need the context. We need a system that understands how our governance actually works. We're not supposed to just copy a Western template. So you see, the governance of ESG, it is actually good, but somehow it can become quite rigid. It can forget what ethics are bigger. It can forget ethics. It can forget that ethics are actually more important than all of those audits, all of those checklists. So if we want true governance, we're supposed to make them moral, contextual or context-based and lawful as well, or halal. All right, and then the solution for the G part, this is about what we lead, right? How we manage, how we stay accountable even when nobody's watching. So earlier we talked about the problems, and then now we're talking about the things that can make it better. The first one, we're supposed to embrace faith-based accountability because that is our anchor. Faith keeps us honest, and then without this one, governance becomes cold, right? They're just signatures and seals. That's it. We're supposed to include Sharia boards or ethical advisors to just guide. All right, and then sometimes a board needs someone who reminds them what is halal, what is moral, what is fair, what is lawful. So with faith can help that, right? But it's not supposed to be biased. It's supposed to give you, it's supposed to provide you with the right direction, and it's supposed to keep integrity alive when rules alone cannot do that. And then competence over quota, we talked about this already. We've seen how quotas can backfire. So again, like we fill them for skills. We make sure that they are trained already. And then ethical governance culture, you cannot buy ethics, you build it just slowly, right? Like you have to build it slowly through daily habits. So basically, we need people who tell the truth, even when everything is what we built. So we build a system. We have to build a system that rewards honesty and punishes everything that is wrong, little by little, of course. It's not about like exposing fear, but it's all about like embracing conscience here. So the next one is a political neutrality. So this one is quite sensitive, right? In many Muslim countries, we are already aware about it. So business and politics are way too close, sometimes too close. But we have to stay professional. We're not supposed to embrace favoritism. They're not supposed to be hidden deals, right? And we have to be open, but not in a political way. We have to support lawful policies, yes, but we don't turn our company into a campaign stage. And the last one, local ESG assurance. This one is quite important for us. We cannot depend forever on Western validation. We need our own system, our own auditors. We need our own benchmark, right? When it comes to that, I believe that Halal ESG, when we actually have one, when we have like a system for that, we can measure transparency, honesty, and lawful operation through our own standards so that small family businesses or halal producers or local brands, they don't have to chase approvals from people who do not understand their values. We have to embrace our values as long as our values are good. And we have to educate people about our values and tell them that they are good, and we have to justify how good these are. So this is the last slide. I guess like I've been talking too long. I hope I do not bore you. All right, let's bring this home. At the end of the day, ESG is not going away, not in a million years. It will decide who trades, who invests, and who matters. That's a reality. But if we stay silent, others will define it for us. If we don't join the table, our voice will never be heard. So yes, we need to speak the same language. We need to understand the global terms, but our grammar must stay halal. Our rules come from law, justice, and truth. That is our strength. We don't have to imitate anyone. We just participate in the most confident way with our values. Because if we don't build our own halal ESG model, someone else will build it for us, right? And it might not fit who we are. So let's do it ourselves. Let's build our version. We need one that respects the planet, but also respects belief. So anyway, if you think that we can work together on this, if you see this as a shared mission, then we're supposed to talk. I hope you will reach out to me and we can start building our Halal ESG together from here and now, from here, from now, and from us. I think that's it from me. And I would like to thank you guys for listening to me for almost 55 minutes. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Thank you. I guess that's it.
Thank you, Dr. Firdaus, I think, for your very inspiring talk about halal ESG and giving us guidelines, I think, also on which components are important. Also, have you shared also about the struggles there are in a lot of ESG practices in the world. I think you covered also very good the alternative protein agenda, which might have conflict also with the halal requirements for the consumption of Muslims. Also, you shared, I think, interesting case studies about how brand owners got into trouble by maybe going overboard on ESG, whereas they forgot about the actual customers and consumers. Before we go into the Q&A, I would like to thank you all for attending this masterclass. Our next masterclass will be on the 20th of November by Dr. Shazwan Talib. He will also have a masterclass, I think, on a very interesting topic, which will be briefed to you all soon. So thank you very much for attending. I would like now to open up for any questions from the people attending today. Any questions to Dr. Firdaus?